Welcome back, you filthy exiles, and we're back at it with another Path of Exile 2 League right before Christmas as well. So basically, the big winners here were Smithy Katava, definitely got a pretty good buff, and also Pathfinder now being able to start at the, Sork and Warrior areas is a pretty significant change, and we're going to see a lot of Pathfinder builds, I feel, in this league as well. I'm on the bench about Druid. Generally, in these lists, I don't feature new builds that are untested, and the reason for that is I just want to see you guys have a good league start. But anyway, we've got a list of builds here which should take you through. There's reliable builds, tried and true tested builds. One from me, which was a pretty good league starter, which can be scaled further or converted later down the track from last league. But anyway, let's get into 5 builds that you could consider to test and league start for the 0.4 Path of Exile 2 League. Okay, so first off the ranks, we've got Loopy's Invoker Monk. Now, the reason why I put this on the list is, number one, this is a pretty good build guide, and he also includes like Mobalytics, full Mobalytics link for a written endgame guide and everything else. The main reason though is it's a really consistent build on a league start scenario. It can be established very quickly. It will generally always work, and I can't see anything of a significant nature at all in the patch notes that would stop this build from actually working. Now, obviously, there were some changes to the Invoker Ascendancy, but outside of that, nothing that's of a significant nature. The general gist of how this build works is obviously we're using a series of lightning skills, essentially Storm Wave, Falling Thunder, Charge Staff, Herald of Thunder, which there was a slight nerf to Herald of Thunder, but that being said, it's not enough to make it not workable. And then basically we're just going to be blasting all the way through maps, generating power charges, just destroying absolutely everything. There are some changes to how damage applies to endgame bosses to try and negate one-shot kills and stuff like that. But at this stage, I don't think it's going to be of any major concern. This build should work pretty much similarly to how it worked in 0.3 from what I can see, unless someone can see any other reason why. But yeah, this should be pretty good. Now, the alternative to this, I would recommend also looking for like Ice Strike Monks. They're also equally going to be as powerful, and there's tons of those builds ticking around. But this would definitely be one that I'd recommend. Now, Loopy's got a lot of information in his guide. He basically goes through how to gear it up, how to progress it from early game through to mid to end game, the ascendancy sequencing, all the good stuff that you need to know. But anyway, this would be the first build that I'd feature on this list. Just something a bit reliable that you can go to, and if you're unsure of anything else, hopefully this should work. And maybe we can even make lightning quarterstaff skills work on the Druid, which would be crazily cool. But yeah, anyway, this would be the first build I'd feature here. Okay, so the next build I'm going to feature here is a really interesting one. Now, it's not a League Starter guide per se, but the creator did make a comment about League Start in one of the comments on the video. And I agree with exactly what I've seen here. It is a Firebolt Bloodmage. Now, the beauty of this is Firebolt you get like straight away, and if you just get plus to gem levels at the end of the day, you can outscale it pretty quickly in the campaign. Now, the big thing here is obviously relies on you having a pretty good stave, and on that basis, they've actually created a crafting guide for this particular setup as well as to how to create a God tier 5 staff. So that's all linked in the description of their video, which will be linked in the description of this video. But basically how the scales is you're just ramping up gem level for Firebolt until you get like an insane amount of damage. There's like nothing really like complex about this build. From the gearing standpoint, we're using like Diodre's Tenure, which are really cheap gloves. In fact, all the uniques are cheap. Ingenuity, which is easily accessible from the King of the Mist. Trample Toes, obviously my favorite boots. Crown of the Victor. It does have a Calendar's Touch eventually, but that's in the real end game setup with Fireflower, which is relatively cheap as well. So there's like nothing in here that's going to be like insanely crazy. The only thing that I'd be concerned about is the runes that have been applied, as to whether there's a 1 cap on the rune, and we have to go back and double check that, because they did make a bunch of changes around runes, but I think that's more targeted towards like soul cores and unique runes and things like that, as opposed to like your standard runes of wisdom, which they're stacked in the stave here. Overall, really, really cool build, really interesting build. It does have a relative amount of tankiness, so it's just like a bit of an all-rounder, good survivability, good clear, bit of a one-button build. And from a league start scenario, it requires very minimal inputs. So while there's no leveling guide for this or anything like that I can see, the video is very well put together, explains the build really easily. If you want to give it a crack, I would recommend having a go with it. It's a super easy build to play, and a really well constructed one. So yeah, make sure you stop by Adventurous Gaming's channel and drop him a like and a sub. And this would be the second build that I'd recommend for you to test and have a look at. Okay, so for the next one, it is the Volcanic Titan by Requip Gaming. And I really like this one, number one, because it hits like an absolute truck, and number two, it's really easily scaled. And also, like, basically warriors were essentially untouched, and if anything, buffed in this patch in every possible way. Now, Requip has a very comprehensive build series where you basically there's like a whole like heap of videos covering through all the incremental changes of this build through to like max level end game, everything. It's quite comprehensive. I'll put a link to one in the description, but I'll leave you guys to follow the trail of cookie crumbs for this one. Basically, his video link here has his full like sort of leveling setup as he's played. It goes through, there's a max roll GG tree attached to all of this with all the gear that he's using and everything else. And then obviously, if you follow all the progressive videos throughout, you'll be able to see his progression through pretty efficiently through to the end game setup. Look, as an overall, this is a very strong build. It did not get touched. If anything, is going to be stronger because we're getting a heap of new passive nodes in the tree. And also there was rescaling of the base damages on a lot of the two-handed maces in the patch notes as well, which is really good to see. But like, as I said, this is just one of those builds that did not get touched. Like, if anything, it's going to be more potent, and yeah, it's going to be really, really good. So I would recommend this one. Check out Requip Gaming's channel. I'll put a link in the description. And obviously Volcanic Titan is 100% viable to take into the next league, at least at this stage, based on the patch notes. Okay, so the next one is from me, and it was my Windblast Titan from last league, and obviously I went the route of playing Armour Break. Now, the big advantage with this was essentially just being able to blast your way through enemies with absolutely zero recourse. When I did get it to endgame, and I scaled it up fairly far, but it can go much further. I never used constricted command or anything like that, so this build could be significantly more powerful than even the last like video I put up on it, but I did put a full video series up on this. Essentially, yeah, you pretty much just start with like Falling Thunder, you go to Quarterstaff, and then now they've actually changed Windblast from a tier 5 skill to a tier 3 skill. They haven't tuned anything else with it in a negative fashion, so it's just as strong as what it was previously. And then you would essentially use Vaulting Impact. This received a buff, which allowed you to do additional days to enemies, which then you would Windblast, and then you would drop a weapon switch with Hammer of the Gods and just nuke stuff, and it was really, really good. It did drop off, I guess, when we got into like the real like late game. It just wasn't as tanky as I wanted it to be. But the feedback that I got from the community on this build was that it was an over-astounding lot of fun and a really good build. So yeah, this is definitely one that I would recommend. If you're just going for a league start scenario, you could convert this to something else later on. It was relatively cheap to get working. Like, at the end of the day, I didn't use any uniques when I was doing T16 mapping. Everything was just rare dropped. And yeah, so in my POBs that I've got here, I've got the day 1, I've got the day 2 update. I actually got to like T15s by like day 2 or 3. And yeah, I was just chewing through T16 content by day 4 and just armor breaking and exploding whole screens. It was a really good build. But yeah, I would recommend on a league start. Am I going to play it again? No, I'm probably not going to service this anymore because I pretty much got to the point where I was like, all right, this is a good build from a league start scenario, but shields is where my heart really rests at the end of the day now. Okay, so the next video is from Anime Princess. And yeah, it's his Lich Minions full campaign run League starter. So he's got a full mobalytics guide for this one. You can check it out in the description below. But or sorry, you can check his video out in the description below, which will link it to. And so he's got a note here to say that there'll be a video that'll be released before the point 4 launch. But he's actually put his entire run up so you can see what's going on and how it all works. Now, in his mobalytics guide attached to this run, he's got all of his act leveling, his interludes, his setups, and basically how he gears up all the way through. I'm actually doing something similar with my blood shield setup, or blood shield wall setup as well. But as an overall, it's a very, very, very consistent build. Obviously, we don't expect there to be any major changes to minions in this respect. So obviously, this Lich setup should work into the point 4 league without any major issues. And yeah, as an overall, really consistent build. Anime Princess does pretty good builds. I don't think I've ever seen any negatives come from his guides at a league start standpoint. They've always been very consistent and well constructed. And he obviously has a lot of interaction with his community as well. So if you want to ask questions, I'm sure if you went over and asked, he would probably answer them. But yeah, this would be the 5th league starter suggestion that I would put in this list. This one would be a little bit easier on the hands as well, being a minion build. But obviously, it can do massive damage at the very late game, and then it has pretty okay clear. You can play it on an SSF scenario as well. So there's a lot of big advantages to this sort of setup and this minion build configuration. But yeah, make sure you stop by Anime's channel and drop him a like and a sub. And yeah, that'd be the 5th I'd list on this curation list. Okay, so this is just a list of suggested ideas that you could approach and some, I guess, really good creators that you could refer to. So yeah, it's at your discretion. At the end of the day, I'd always say play builds that you find are cool and interesting and fun. I know people don't always do that and generally go with like Deadeye, but now in the absence of Deadeye, it's a bit of an open sort of air as to what will work the best. But yeah, as an overall, all of these builds should take you through at least a standard league start scenario, progress you through and give you a bit of an idea of how to play Path of Exile 2 with a little bit more optimized efficiency at that. And yeah, for any creators listed here, if you don't want to be featured for any reason, just reach out to me. I'm happy to do post-edit. But outside of that, for anyone who watches this video, make sure you drop by all the creators mentioned to their channels, drop them likes, subs, and all that good stuff. And don't forget to drop me a like and a sub. And I'll be working on my shield wall setup on the Smithic Atava. That'll be my league starter for this league. And I'll probably have a league start guide out in the next 3 to 4 days or so. I just got to finish the first run and then edit. And then we'll sort of reference our previous leagues build and whatnot for that. But anyway, until next time, I'll see you guys later on and have a good one.